Hey everyone, thanks for listening and watching the CB vlog. If you're liking these videos, go down, hit subscribe, let us know that you're there, and check out patreon.com/commandersbrew if you're interested in helping support the show. But in the meantime, let's get right to this week's topic.
What are we talking about today?
Okay, well, this week's topic, we're going to get right to it here, is sort of about politics. It's sort of about the politics of a game. And it's something that I've heard and I've seen, and I'm sure we've all heard and seen this in games. We've seen people do this. It's the idea of, and for lack of a better term, going North Korea on someone, which also I've heard a lot of people describe as like going nuclear, the nuclear option. So what I want to talk about here is this situation, okay? There's someone in a game, and you've decided that maybe it could be early in the game, it could be in the mid game or somewhere, but you've done something that player does not want you to do, whether it's attacking them or you've destroyed some kind of permanent or something like that, right? And then this person decides that, okay, well, it's like if you do that, I'm going to spend the rest of the game just attacking you and just making it so that you are going to die. And if I die too, no problem, right? Mutually assured destruction, right? That's why it's referred to as like the nuclear option.
Yeah, because the famous argument of nuclear war is like as soon as one person fires them off, the other nations will fire theirs off too, and then everybody loses, right?
And then it's Judgment Day, and then the robots take over.
Yeah, right? And the robots are the other players not involved with this nuclear thing, because that is what happens. The two people, because if you're the recipient, let's say that someone points their nuclear efforts at you, and you're just like, I don't want to be the nuclear victim here, so I can't do nothing. Like if you're threatening with this giant creature or enchantment that's coming at me, I gotta destroy it. So now I'm spending these resources to stop you, and you're just throwing everything blindly at me, and neither of us really get to practice. And the other two just get to watch and be like, should we just wait till this is over? Yeah, let's just wait till this is over.
Right,
and
exactly.
Now let's play the game, right?
Yeah.
It's mutually assured destruction for sure. So then why do people do it?
Yeah, why do people do it? Well, we've heard a lot of, I think over the years of listening to shows and seeing people play, I think a lot of people do this as a deterrent, right? Again, another like kind of nuclear metaphor here, but like the deterrent of if you've seen this person do this, just you then know that they rely on this strategy. So I can't blow up his, I shouldn't blow up his enchantment, because he will then go nuts and take me out of the game while also taking, like, he doesn't care about himself. He'll just take both of us out of the game and just like wreck me. So I'm not going to use my enchantment removal. And on the surface, that alone, just looking at that, that interaction, it seems that like going nuclear is actually, maybe it's a good strategy, right? It might deter people from destroying your stuff in the future. People are kind of afraid of you. They don't want to attack you or anything, and then you can take advantage of that, obviously. But I'm here to say that I think it's a really bad strategy, and I think it is really bad for your meta if you're involved in a meta, and it's really bad for, I think, the games that it happens in.
I think I'm going to agree with you. I don't know if I always have agreed with you, Andy, but like we had some very interesting games recently, some very interesting discussions, and well, I mean, that's partly why we're having this discussion right now, because like in the picture you painted, the pro is, well, in future games, I'll go nuclear now. I know I'm going to lose now, because in future games, maybe people will come at me less. But it puts this interesting, but here's why this is, in my opinion, here's a reason this can't be a great option, because I mean, I think calling it going nuclear is a great metaphor, because in real life as well, if you're going to go nuclear, then I have to go nuclear as well. The only proper defense is like, well, now I have to put you in the same position. So now if you come at me, I have to go nuclear at you. Otherwise, we just give you a free pass every game we ever play again. Right? So otherwise we have to say, well, you go nuclear, so I can't attack you, so I'll attack Scott Butler over here. And then he's like, well, you're always attacking me now because this guy's going nuclear, so now I have to go nuclear too. So now Scott has to go nuclear, so that we're back to square one, where now I have to make an even choice, only now the games are less fun, right? like now there's this tense energy in the air, and it's like, well, this is the right move to come after you because of my threat assessment, but I can't do it because you're gonna go nuclear, and I can't go at you because now you go nuclear because the first guy goes nuclear all the time, so now I gotta go nuclear. So now we all sit here, and the only option out of it is if we all make combo decks that just all of a sudden win out of nowhere, that no one has to make any aggressive moves until that happens. and like, that's not how I want to play.
And I do believe that a lot of Commander players and metas are that and have become that as a result of this type of play.
And I'm against it.
Yeah, I am too. I am too. I've experienced it both ways. I've admit I've done this just because, like, sometimes you just get heated and you do it, right?
Oh, for sure. We all have emotions. We all, I know it's just a game, but sometimes, some things get,
and that's not exactly. And that's not exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, someone has done something that's irrational and then you want to get back at them, maybe acting irrational yourself. That happens. Once in a while, that's going to happen. What I'm saying is employing this as a strategy to try and win games and create this legacy of people not attacking you and doing things. What I think it does is it shows like an understanding that, like, you don't look, this is a game we're playing, right? So to punish someone for proper threat assessment, well, I know it's like in your own best interest to do that, and like you can still politic your way out of things like that. I think, like, that's the thing. But if there's no other enchantment on the board, and I'm drawing 1,000,000 cards from my Rhystic Study, and someone goes to destroy that Rhystic Study, I don't have a leg to stand on to be upset about that, right?
Right.
So why fake it? Why make this person feel uncomfortable or feel like they're doing something so bad? Like, how dare you? How dare you do that to me? You know what I mean? I've drawn 12 cards off of this thing, but you're just gonna destroy it? I haven't done anything to you. You know what I mean? That's what people say. And it's like, absolutely, you can play that up. Like, you can play that, but then it's the reaction that you actually have in the game. Like, I might even say something similar to that, knowing full well that they're right to destroy it, but then turning around and being like, well, now all I'm going to do is attack you for the rest of the game. That's the thing I think is completely wrong and very bad for the health of your meta.
Yes. I don't know if I don't mean to stray from the notes. I don't know if but I had an idea of like how to possibly defuse a nuclear player. And I think it all comes down to communication.
Mm-hmm.
And so what if, okay, so I threatened to destroy the Rhystic Study. We've established in our scenario this is the only real enchantment on the board.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to assume there might be some like little aura that's not doing much on a creature. Who knows?
Yeah.
But there is at least one other target, but it's obviously not the pick. And then the nuclear player who has the Rhystic Study says like, oh, if you destroy this, I'm gonna go at you for the rest of the game. I'm gonna go nuclear on you. So that, what if this is the diffuse tactic? What if I ask him, like, okay, I'm willing to discuss this, but I want to hear your reasoning why there's a better target for me on the board. If you can convince me that there's a better target for this, I'll do that. But if you can't, I see your Rhystic Study as the strongest threat on the board that needs to be dealt with right now from like a game point of view.
That's a very reasonable thing to try and do. I think that person might, because the strategy is kind of unreasonable in its nature, I think they're going to try and tell you that you don't need to do anything. I think they're going to tell you, why do you need to do anything? And you're going to say, oh, you're getting all this crazy card advantage. And they're like, well, how does that hurt you? Blah, blah, blah. There's going to be a discussion about this that doesn't really make sense from this person's for the rest of the table.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. That's the thing. It's not going to make sense. But like, go ahead.
So as a communication tactic, though, instead of just saying like, why not do nothing? Right? Okay, so let's entertain this. It's like, well, your other option is to not destroy anything, right? Like, don't destroy any enchantments. I don't know, man. That's a tough one because, you have drawn 12 cards off of it, and we have not, and I feel like that is putting us behind as a table, and I don't want you to have that advantage anymore.
So here's what I think is the better thing to have happen in this game. This scenario that we have set up.
Sure.
The person that has the Rhystic Study, the person that obviously does not want it to be destroyed because it is a great source of card advantage and it's a fantastic card in Commander.
I don't want anything of mine destroyed.
I don't want anything of mine destroyed. But you must accept okay, that the other players can't simply let you get crazy card advantage. And at some point, you must accept that this thing is going to be destroyed. The second that I realized that, like, not everything is precious, things are going to get destroyed. Things are going to get destroyed. You're going to be able to get them back, or you're going to be able to replace them with whatever else. But it's just going to happen. It's part of the game. There's no... I think you'll get more goodwill, and things will happen to you that are more positive if you accept it. If you say, yeah, you know what? Right now, on the way this board is, you're absolutely right. This thing has been crazy good. It's drawn me all these cards. It's great. Like, you're right to destroy it. Right? Now there's no adversarial thing going on. The atmosphere of the game isn't like this argument between two players that obviously one player is definitely right. But, you know,
yeah.
And whenever those arguments tend to happen, even if one player is definitely right, the other two players are like, eee, and they're sitting back here, like, you know, tugging on their collar, being like, this is awkward, right? Like, especially if you're at like
awkward.
Yeah, of course it can. And then any argument can get too heated. And if you're at a, like, God forbid, you're at a store and these two people don't know each other, then how terrible is that? That's 10 times more awkward, right? So if you show a little bit of goodwill there and you accept that, yes, you know what, that thing did have to be destroyed. Good job. You're going to show that you're like a good sportsman, for one thing. People like to make deals, and they like to deal with reasonable people. I think that's going to help you in the future. I think that will actually create a better legacy for you going forward in future games, to show that you're reasonable and that you can properly assess a board, and even recognize that your stuff is the threat. Like, I think that actually is good. But I'm not saying be a pushover. Don't be a pushover. When there is something to be argued, go ahead, make your point, right?
Yes.
And even if you still know that, like, you know, let's say someone else has like what's another really good enchantment? I don't know.
Let's say there's a Mind's Dilation app.
Yeah, okay. So those are pretty close, right? There's probably a pretty good argument that Mind's Dilation is better, actually.
Okay, because
depending on what happens,
cards,
right?
Yeah,
of course, and you know, there's lots more to be decided here, like what the board states are and so on and so forth. But don't just let someone destroy your heuristic study if there's something else on the board that looks like it could also be a threat, right? Like, you can't argue that, like, some enchantment that, like, I don't know, I want to say like a pacifism on a token. Yeah, like, you know what I mean? You can't make that argument. You just can't.
Yeah.
But you certainly can with something like Mind's Dilation, some other powerful thing. So don't be a pushover. Stick up for yourself, but also, like, be aware that when you are unreasonable, that is not helping you as a player and as a person in a meta or in a game.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I feel like so the nuclear strategy, the idea is you're banking on future equity. You're hoping that you'll get less aggression in future games. But I think it actually works the opposite. I think in the example you've explained, where you're just like, you know what? I made my case, but yeah, I can see why you want to destroy this. Fair enough. I drew 12 cards. All right, heuristic study, go into the graveyard. You can... I would contest that you can leverage that action for even more equity than going nuclear gets you. Because in the future of this very game, there might be less threats towards me. If I start a little scrap with someone, for sure they're coming at me, right? I can still win this game without that heuristic study, right? But I can't win this game if I'm going nuclear. And not only that is... Imagine how it's going to sound later on when the player who destroyed my heuristic study, when I'm going to destroy like a new player, like a third party's enchantment, and be like, you know what? I really want to destroy your thing to get back at you for heuristic study, but instead I think that this is the worst threat on the board, so I'm going to go here. And now they're like, oh, doing a nice thing for me, even though it's like, I was always going to destroy that thing, but I'm going to make it sound like it's an extra favor.
Exactly. It's like a next level to the politicking, right? Like, the nuclear thing is like the very base. I don't even know if it even should count as politics, because it's...
I mean, it technically does, I guess.
Yeah, I think it technically does as well, right? Also, I wanted to say that, like, this strategy, this you know, sort of attitude towards the game, it kind of makes sense in a 1v1 setting, and maybe that might be where it comes from, like this kind of ultra competitive 1v1 type thing, where, like, but I don't think any ultra competitive player would do this in a multiplayer game, for one thing, because you end up losing no matter what, even if you beat the person.
It's the only way, right? like it, technically all 1v1 games, I'm
only
going after one person.
Yeah, exactly, so. Exactly. That's what I mean. Like,
can you imagine
maybe they're locked
down...
into like a 1v1 like kind of way of thinking or something.
Can you imagine sitting down at a draft or something, and then the person goes to, like, they have a 2/2, and your empty is like, if you swing at me, I'm gonna try to destroy you for the rest of this game.
The person's like, Okay. That's the point.
Yeah.
And again, yeah, whatever. What I wanted to say though is that this is especially bad for new players. This is especially bad for trying to bring someone into the meta, trying to get them into Commander. Like even just displaying it, even if you're not doing it to that player, just displaying it in a game, I think is very harmful.
Very harmful. Because
for all the reasons we've said, it creates an uncomfortable atmosphere. It's really off-putting as just a personal type of thing. I really think so. And even though like we've had this happen in games, even in our meta, we've had this happen in games. And then of course we're like, I'm not like, no one's mad at the person outside of the game, but it can happen, especially if you're, like I said, like playing in a meta or at a store or something where not everyone knows each other. You might be like, geez, that guy was being a real jerk. And he might have been like, oh, that's just how I do the game. Like, honestly, I'm not like, please, that's my persona in game. I'm not like that in real life. But I think that it's not beneficial to have that persona in game is I guess what I'm saying.
Right. And because it should be in our best interest to welcome as many new players as possible. The more people we have playing our game, the better our game gets, because then more resources are put on it, more people are designing it, and it's just a better community. Let's make that community as big as possible. And if players are sitting down, like if it's me, you, and a couple of strangers, and we go nuclear, then those strangers, quote unquote, are like, wow, these two are a real, like, we got to sit here and wait for 5 minutes while they yell at each other. It's like, well, I just want to play this game. This is not fun for me. Because like the worst case scenario, right? You know what? You might be so good at going nuclear that like you don't get invited to games in the future. Like, and that's nothing, and nobody wants that.
No.
So just like, if you feel you have to go nuclear all the time because people are always coming at you, maybe that's a deck building thing. Maybe your deck is a little bit too strong. Like maybe don't always run obvious threats. Run like things that get to go under the radar. Yeah,
it might be a deck building thing. It might not even be a deck building thing and just a thing of like, flying under the radar with the decks you do have. That can be something. So in the end here, looking at this as a strategy and as a play option, there are pros and there are cons. I think the cons greatly outweigh the pros. That's the whole thing here. But like, it is it can be an effective deterrent, but I think it comes at the detriment in the long run.
Yep.
To the player that employs this strategy. I think it's just going to create bad atmospheres, and like you said, it could lead to people running away from styles of game that maybe they would normally play, and I think that's a bad thing. I think instead, work the politics, work the communication. If someone is like kind of not nuclear, but like if someone tends to attack you first and you're like, hey, why do you always do that? They maybe get a dialogue going and figure that out, as opposed to just immediately going nuclear on someone. But also keep stock, right? Like let's move away from this type of thinking and these type of games, but keep stock. If there's someone who throughout the whole game has been doing stuff to just like to you kind of like, get them back. It's okay to get them back, but you just don't have to like make it clear that every single thing you're doing is going after them, and don't do it to your own detriment, because I think that's just a bad thing. You're not going to win that game.
Yeah, there's the difference. What we're talking about is the difference between playing for revenge and playing tactically, right? If it is tactically makes sense to knock someone down a couple pegs, do it. But if you're just doing it because you're seeing red and you're feeling vengeful, that's maybe not the best strategic move.
Yeah, agreed.
What a topic, Andy. I didn't know where this was going to go. This is an interesting one. Thank you for this idea.
Yeah, I really want to hear stories too from people who've played in games like this where this is a thing. Do you have players in your meta that do this? Have you guys overcome it? Is it something that you're fine with and you think is totally fair? I really do want to know people's opinions on this. So hit us up in the comments on YouTube. If you're a patron, let's talk about it in Discord. Our Commander's Brew Discord's always popping. Always lots of good stuff happening in there. And let us know. You can even write an email to us. That would be cool.
That's cool too. Big thanks to all our patrons who make these episodes possible.
Yeah, and if you want to check out more comedy videos, check out our Brews News playlist.
Make sure you follow us on Twitch TV to see when we play live.
If you want to chat with us, head over to Twitter. We're at Commander's Brew.
And please hit subscribe to ding the bell and find out when we got new stuff coming out.
See you next time.
Bye.